Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, here at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. We're in the main interview room right now, and in just a moment, we'll be joined by the head coach of South Carolina, Frank Martin. We're also going to open up the locker room for the South Carolina student athletes at that time. That's coming up in about 4 minutes. We're going to have Coach Martin join us here in the main interview room for a period of 15 minutes. Then we're going to have student athletes P.J. Dozier, Dwayne Notice, and Sendarius Thornwell in the interview with us right now. Each team gets 30 minutes up here in the main interview room. Their locker room is also open at that time. The order of the day is 1 to 1:30 South Carolina, 1:30 to 2 Baylor, 2 to 2:30 Wisconsin, and 2:30 to 3 p.m. we'll have Florida. Just a reminder, when joining us here in the main interview room, as Coach Martin is at this time, please refrain from the use of flash photography, no video recording devices of any kind here in the main interview room as well. That includes video on your mobile phone and video for social media. Can't use that here in this room. We have satellite information. If you need it, come up and ask, or ask the gentleman from Hammond Communications in the back. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by the head coach, Frank Martin from South Carolina. He'll be here for the next 15 minutes. The South Carolina locker room is open for student athletes, and we'll ask Coach Martin to kick things off here with an opening statement. Then we'll take questions. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, first, the obvious thing, unbelievably excited for the opportunity to be a part of the Sweet 16, and once realize that we're going to play in this, to know that we're coming to New York City, where anyone that knows anything about the history of South Carolina basketball understands the unbelievable connection to this city with Bobby Cremins and John Roach, and just go on and on and on. You know, we go on, George Felton, just go on forever. The incredible players from this area that have represented the Gamecocks. And then lastly, on a personal note, half my family lives here. My wife is from here. To be able to perform and bring our team in front of so many people that care so much about us.
We'll take questions now for Coach Martin. We have a couple down front. We have Andrew is one of our microphone stewards. Andrew, make your way right up there to the front. Please identify yourself by name and media outlet, and then proceed with your question.
Sure. Hi, Frank. This is Jerry Carino from Gannett, New Jersey. You recruited a guy, Chris Silva, from right across the river. What's Chris's development been like since you got him, and how big of an impact has he had in getting you here?
He's been great. I said this the other day. I'm harder on Chris than probably anyone on our team because I think his room for growth is so great. That's number one. Number two, and this is where he's such an awesome kid to coach. We needed him to be a senior, even though he's a sophomore that's only played ball for less than 4 years. And he's been willing to accept that responsibility. He took on that challenge, and it's no secret. All you got to do is watch our season. In games that he got in foul trouble and didn't play well, we struggled to score at the rim. And in games that he has not, we've done a pretty good job of protecting the rim and scoring at the rim. He's a big, big part of what we do. He's an unbelievable kid. I think he's going to be an unbelievable player as he continues to get better. But he's fun to. I mean, everyone on our team's fun to coach. And I don't go back and listen to all my press conferences over the last 10 years. I don't say that all the time. You know, and this whole team, they're fun. They're great to be around, and Chris is a big reason for that. He allows me to coach him. He allows me to challenge him to be great, and all the other guys respond to that and appreciate and respect him for it.
We're going to stay on the right side, right over here. Please, your name and media outlet.
Tony Adami, CBS Interactive and 24/7. Scott Drew said that after you left the Big 12, you guys stayed in touch and that relationship continued. Can you tell me kind of how that developed over the years and what that means to you?
When I got hired at Kansas State, I was kind of the new kid. You know, it was my first year as a head coach. And Scott was in the process of establishing his Baylor program. And he was kind of the new guy. And he hired a guy named Tim Maloney, who's a native New Yorker. Tim and I, dear friends. He's one of the most incredible human beings that I've ever met, and he's a heck of a basketball coach. And, Scott hired Tim. And through Tim, he and I started to develop a friendship. Tim and I, we speak on a regular basis, and I think the world of him. He got me and Scott to become friends because of his passion for both of us, and that's why our friendship continues. I'm extremely proud of how Scott has been able to maintain Baylor into a national winner in such a short period of time. Every year, everyone thinks, okay, Baylor's taking a back seat this year. They lost so-and-so. And there's another guy that jumps in there, and all of a sudden he becomes their guy. And that's what it's all about. But we've maintained friendships. We stay in touch. When I got at South Carolina, nobody would schedule us. I'm not about other name schools. Scott said, let's do this. I don't like playing friends, but he said, let's do this, because he knew he'd have a lot more to lose if they lost to South Carolina than we would. But he wasn't scared of giving us the opportunity. So we played Thornwell's freshman year at Baylor and his sophomore year at home. And, we continue to speak, and we watch each other's teams. I know he's proud of the way we've built our program, and I know I'm extremely proud of the way he continues to win at a national level.
Coach, we'll stay on the right side toward the back. Mike?
Excuse me, Mike Vaccaro, New York Post. I don't know that there's necessarily one blueprint toward climbing the coaching ladder. Yours is probably a little more unconventional than many or most. Do you find that other coaches reach out to you and seek inspiration by the fact that, maybe just because they've been coaching high school for 10 years, there's still a possibility that somewhere down the road they can become a successful coach? And if so, do you find that to be kind of a satisfying part of your journey, that you can kind of be kind of representative of that guy who kind of, grinds away until he gets to a spot like you're in now?
Yeah, one of the funny deals when I first got hired at K-State 10 years ago is most members of the media that knew nothing about me, which I understood. It's not like I was a name that anyone outside of basketball, high school basketball, and the guys that recruited my players knew, referred to me as like he's going to fail because he's nothing but a high school coach. That was the word that was used. And I used to sit there and laugh. I'd say, wow. And at the end of the year, they said, why would you always laugh when this was asked? I said, because you guys thought that you were trying to find a reason why I was going to fail. And what you didn't understand is you were paying me the ultimate compliment that anyone can be paid, which is you were calling me an educator. And that's who I am. I take pride. I have unbelievable conversations with high school coaches, young people in college basketball, to let them know that they can move forward in this business as long as they do things the right way. Everyone's going to get a job. If you handle things the right way, then you'll keep your job. That's what I try to teach my players. That my job, and I tell them when I go in their homes, my job's not to help you get a job one day. You're going to get a job, whether it pays you 20 grand or it pays you 120 grand. Who knows? The thing is, can you take that $20,000 job and make it a $120,000 job? Can you take a $120,000 job and make it a 1.2 job? That's my job in life, is to help people move forward. I take a lot of pride in trying to do my job best I can, so others that have taken the path I've taken to be given the platform that I'm given right now can stay with it and continue to do their job, so one day they can get an opportunity.
Coach, next question is on the left side of the aisle toward the back. Kevin?
Kevin Gainesville Sun. Frank, you've been saying the last couple of years that the SEC is undervalued. How much validation is it this season to see 3 teams in the Sweet 16 and both you and Florida being here?
Yeah, I don't know what happened in the SEC 7 years ago. I wasn't a part of it. Obviously, I became a part of it 5 years ago. I see it every day. It's hard. It's a hard league. And I don't sit around and try to say that we're better than the next league. I've been in other leagues. I know how hard those leagues are. And I have unbelievable respect. But it bothers me when our league is referred to in a way different than those leagues. We don't take a back seat to any of those leagues. And what probably the next question is, well, what do you mean? Well, like if us or even Kentucky, which is the most nationally relevant program in our conference, loses a league game, oh, they stink. They're no good because they lost a league game. I've been answering to that the whole last 3 weeks of the season. Well, your team is just, it's lost its fight. It's not very good. It doesn't belong. Why? Because we lost at Vanderbilt? Why? Because we lost at Florida? Why? Because we lost at Ole Miss, who won 22 games? It's part of league basketball, especially in a league like the SEC. It's hard. But look at the coaches. Those coaches have won championships in every league they've been in. Every one. Whether it's Rick Barnes, Avery Johnson, Ben Howland, and I'm talking just the new ones. I'm not talking about the other ones. This league is hard. They recruit at a high level. They coach their players to play at a high level. I think Commissioner Sankey's done an unbelievable job, and the people that he's surrounded himself with, that it's helping us do a better job of promoting basketball within our own communities, our own pockets where we're at. And now the 3 programs that are in the Sweet 16, I'm proud of my coworkers in the SEC. We've done what you have to do to earn credibility. In the Big 12 Challenge, I think we went 5-5. We weren't in it, but I think it was 5-5, and it was at the end of the year. So I think it was a different twist than maybe 5-5 in November. And then obviously making runs here in the NCAA tournament always helps.
Just on the right side of the aisle toward the front.
Gene Fournette from the Times-Union in Jacksonville. Frank, Wisconsin has certainly developed a reputation over the years as being the epitome of the blue-collar type team. Could you talk a little bit about maybe your team and perhaps even Florida in that same vernacular, even though they don't maybe have the same national reputation in that regard?
Wisconsin has sent my team packing twice in the NCAA tournament, so I'm very familiar with their blue-collar ways. I think Wisconsin gets a lot of that well-deserved recognition because of their success at this time of year. I just said this earlier. Eddie Fogler, who's become a dear friend of mine. Eddie's as good a coach as I've ever been around. Eddie won an SEC championship at South Carolina. Got upset in the first round of the NCAA tournament. No one ever validated how great that team was because of that. So why am I bringing that up? You can be undefeated going into the NCAA tournament. If you don't make a run in this tournament, all your accomplishments kind of go out the window. Or you can be a team that lost 12 games and you make a run in this tournament and everyone forgets all your sins before you got in the tournament. So Wisconsin's earned that right. Florida, under Billy, had earned that right because of their successes. You have a coaching change. Mike's got those kids playing through his eyes now, and they've made a run. So now they're earning that credibility, and hopefully our guys get rewarded with the same kind of conversation, because that's the way we approach our jobs every single day at South Carolina.
On the left side of the aisle toward the center.
Jeremy Schneider, NJ Advanced Media. Frank, talked about Chris earlier, how he hasn't been playing this game very long. What do you remember about him in high school? He was very raw, and how far has his game progressed since he's gotten to South Carolina?
His haircut and not agreeing with officials. Never back down from the competitiveness of the game. Freak athleticism, and a kid that I believe when you recruit, I believe in really paying attention to his interactions with those that are helping him every day, and that doesn't mean being nice to him. How important those people were in his life, and you're talking about a kid who left his family behind to have a chance to move forward in life, and so he can then in turn help his family back home in Gabon. All those are very important to me. Those are the kind of people I like being around. I like people that want to grow. I like people that want to help others. I like people that sacrifice, and that's what he's about. And that's what I learned outside of the nonsense part, which is the basketball talent. It was all those other things, because I think that's a guy that we could help continue to build our program with, and that's what he's about.
All the way up in the front row. I'm sorry.
Coach Judy Gadsden from WIS-TV in Columbia. We've been hearing from a lot of fans who are thrilled about this program being in the national spotlight, but they're worried about them getting distracted by all of the hype. They want to know what you're doing to keep the guys focused.
I'm making all those faces, Judy, that people like having fun with. You know, I've just been real mad and mean with those guys. At the end of the day, Judy, I fight this battle with my own children at home, and it's the age of social media. I tell my staff this all the time. We need to speak to our guys about everything every single day, because if we don't, someone else is. And if they end up listening to someone else because we didn't speak to them, shame on us. And so we've tried real hard for the last, whatever it's been, 72 hours, to spend a lot of time with our guys. And I said this to them before we stepped foot into this tournament. I said, guys, you guys, the only reason we got put on the board is because you guys listened to me. I don't say this in an arrogant way. I'm the only person in this room that's ever been in this tournament. Don't stop listening to me now. And they didn't. And that's why we had success last weekend. And I trust those guys. So that's what I'm banking that they're doing this week, is continuing to listen to us. That doesn't guarantee us success, but at least we know, we feel good about our guys, that we're going to go out tomorrow and play as best we can. We got to play the best game we played all year. We're not going to win.
On the right side toward the back, Nicole.
Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. Frank, last weekend, Coach K said Sindarius is one of the best player that people weren't talking about. And I'm wondering if you can kind of just reflect on the impact he's had on the program. If when you got here, you thought he could be a huge part in elevating the program to where it is right now in the spotlight.
Yeah, Sin was a highly recruited high school kid. He went through something going into senior year in high school that told me a lot about him. It's what convinced me that he was the one. He had a chance to go to Oak Hill Academy. 99% of the kids that are high-profile kids in the country right now have a chance to go to Oak Hill Academy. They jump. They don't even wait for you to finish a sentence. They go. They had to force him to go, because he did not want to leave his state, did not want to leave his high school team, did not want to leave his high school coach, did not want to leave his family. And I didn't say he was the one because I said, okay, this kid wants to stay in the state. No. He was not about himself. The easy thing to have done there is go there so Sindarius Thornwell can move forward. Instead, he was worried about his high school team, his high school coach, his family, his community. And they had to, his uncle, Big Country, DeJuan Thornwell, may he rest in peace, who was his father figure, basically put him in a car and drove him and said, you are going to school here. This is for your own good. And it's who he's become. You know, the day I got the phone call from him telling me, I want to do this with you, when he could have gone to some of the Blue Bloods, and he wanted to help us build. He wanted to surround his heart with the state name that means so much to him and his family's name on the back of his jersey. And that's powerful when you have a young man that wants to take on that moment, that responsibility, and he's done it. He never ran away when we didn't win games. His sophomore year, where I'm just telling you, if he was my child, where I kind of had the sign-off, I would not have allowed him to play. He wouldn't even take a playoff in practice because of the tendonitis and his knees were so bad. And I threatened to suspend him that year to force him not to play. He wouldn't let me. And that's the kind of courage that he has. And we didn't have seniors to help him learn how to figure things out. And for him to have he's had an unbelievable year, and then to be able to have the same performance that he's had all year on the big stage last weekend, I'm real happy. I'm proud of him regardless of whether he plays well or not. I'm real happy for him because he's always given of himself for everyone else. I'm happy he's getting the recognition he deserves.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for right now. We're going to allow Coach Martin to take a break from us here in the main interview room and head back toward the locker room. He'll be available for questions on his way, most likely, and also in the locker room as well. We'll have South Carolina student athletes in just a moment. are on deck. Catch him on the other side. Hey, guys. Congrats. Welcome. We put out name places for you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the South Carolina locker room is open right now. The student athletes who are not joining us right here in the main interview room are available there. Coach Martin is likely available there as well. But right now, we'd like to welcome Sindarius Thornwell, Dwayne Notice, and PJ Dozier from South Carolina. We have 2 questions out on the floor. We'll start right with questions. Catherine has a microphone. Andrew has a microphone. We're going to give the first question to Larry, and then we'll get right back to you in the second row next.
Larry Fleischer, Associated Press. This is all new to the program as far to the Sweet 16. So what is this all like getting this far, especially after last year when you won 25 games and didn't get into the tournament?
We're going to ask the seniors to take that one. Let's have Sindarius take that, and then Dwayne after Sindarius.
It means a lot, man. Just for us, for our first time and our last time playing at the university, it just means a lot, because when we came in as our ultimate goal was to make it to the tournament. And, we didn't get that chance our first 3 years. And for us to get this opportunity our last year heading out is a blessing for us. And then it's good for the basketball program also for us to, to still be playing and, and to make it to the tournament and making a run is huge for everybody.
Same question to Dwayne, please.
Like Sensei, I think it's just a very crucial thing for us all, especially as seniors, who just feel good about the situation and where we're kind of leaving the program and guiding it towards who we're leaving it off to. And like Sin said, when we came here, 3-4 years ago, Coach didn't promise us that we'd be in the Sweet 16, but he promised that we believed in him, and he believed in us that he would provide us with an opportunity to kind of make our dreams come true, and it's kind of coming into fruition right now.
Next question's on the left side of the aisle.
The state, Sin, Dwayne, Frank spoke last week about how he leaned on you two plus Justin to kind of get the program to this point. What were the roughest moments during that stretch where maybe you guys thought that maybe that there was a better decision to be made and maybe you guys were maybe thinking about playing somewhere else?
Freshman year, sophomore year, those 2 years was the roughest moments for us. Freshman year, we were just so young. And then, we had a lot of games where we could have won, but we were just so young and didn't know how to finish games, and so we lost a lot of games, from like the last 4 minutes of the game. And then sophomore year, we just went through so much with, guys getting hurt from knee injuries. It was a time where we was only playing with like 7-8 players for the rest of the season, and just losing was just like not fun, for us. We coming in, we all was, winners in high school. Just coming in and, we all had our thoughts where, like, man, is it really worth it? We didn't see it happening at that point, but then, we stuck with it and kept working. And then that junior year is when we finally started to see the light and thought, maybe we got a chance. And then, after junior year, our hearts was crushed, but then, we didn't settle. And then senior, coming to the senior year, that's when we came up with unfinished business. And we was just determined to give it our all. And then when the preseason rankings and the conference came out, and everybody had us pick 8th, 9th, at the bottom half of the conference, it just even motivated us even more, just to show everybody that we deserve to be up there with the best in our conference. And now they give us the opportunity to play in the tournament. We're here to show people we can compete with the best in the country.
To David, are you good, or did you want Dwayne? Dwayne, could you answer that same question?
Easy for us to kind of falter and I think give in, but the kind of group of guys that we had, we just ride together our freshman and sophomore year, and we just decided that we're just gonna stick through it. We all had our moments where we thought about we should probably reconsider and stuff like that, just because we were losing a lot. And like Singh said, we came from a winning culture in our respective areas. But I think we did a good job of just kind of talking it out and making sure we saw the vision and committed to it. And once we got committed and added other players along the way, the journey became sweeter, and we were able to get through the adversity.
Next question is going to be on the right side of the aisle.
This is for Sindarius. One, how do you guys keep from getting too caught up in the hype of having made the Sweet 16, coming here to Madison Square Garden? And secondly, from what you see inside the program and what's coming after you, is this going to be a one-year wonder for South Carolina, or do you feel it's something they can sustain?
We just stay, like Coach said, before the tournament happened and, before anything happened, Coach told us, to continue to listen to him, and, we've listened to him all season and don't stop now. And we've won the first 2 games and now we're in the Sweet 16. And we're going to continue to listen to Coach and we're going to let Coach lead us and, and we're going to follow him until, whatever. And hopefully it just keep leading us to the right direction and to winning. And I think that the program is headed the right direction. Our defense is just crazy. Like, the guys that Coach is bringing in, the guys that's here now, they're committed and they're going to be committed to what Coach wants. And once you got guys that's committed to the coach and what he wants, that's when you see things start to turn, and that's when you see winning start happening and stuff like that. And I think the program is headed in the right direction. I don't think this is a one-hit wonder. I think they'll be back in the tournament in years to come in the future.
Fellas, we're going to stay on the right side, all the way in the back. Nicole?
Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. Sindarius, this is for you. Coach was just talking about, your decision to commit to South Carolina and just the element of playing for a team and playing for near your family and what you've wanted when you committed here and being part of building a program. Can you just reflect on that a little bit? And also this idea that it seems to kind of the chip on the shoulder seems to motivate you to that people may have overlooked you over your college career. Now in the spotlight, you're having these monster games and people are finally noticing.
I just, been born and raised in South Carolina and from South Carolina. Me and myself, PJ, we both, I feel like we both play for the same reasons, for our family, for our state. Justin also, we all, grew up in South Carolina. We all, been through, the struggles and with the program and, and just, we all been playing good this season. And for us all to be in the spotlight is just tremendous, man, because, we don't feel like we get the recognition that we deserve all season. It was a time where we was number 1 in the conference. I don't think anybody knew about it. But, we all been playing great this season, and, we're just trying to keep it going.
Back up front on the left side, David.
Guys, is it kind of weird that as seniors, your first road trip was at Baylor? Now you get to play them again as seniors. Have you thought about that? And just, what has changed with Baylor's program from 4 years ago to this game?
We're going to ask Sindarius to take that first, and then Dwayne. And if anybody has a question for PJ for the next round, we'll take one of those as well. But Sindarius first, then Dwayne on this.
What's changed? I don't know, man, because they was good my freshman year with Corey Jefferson and Isaiah Austin and Brady Heslop. And, they was good then, and they're good now. They just got guys that's committed to winning, and they just have a winning program. And, and the way they bigs attack the rim right now and rebounding and the way they attack the paint and the way the guys, make shots right now is just, they're a good team. And we're going to have a tough matchup tomorrow.
And the same question for Dwayne.
Yeah, like Sin said, I don't think, much has really changed. They kind of got the same personnel, and they do a good job of playing within that zone. I think Baylor's always been known to have a great zone defensively. So I think, the coach is going to give us the correct game plan so that we can obtain the win. I think our freshman year, we were kind of flustered playing on the road against them. But our sophomore year, we kind of rallied together and were able to get that win. But all that's in the past right now. We just got to focus on. We lost by 1. Yeah, never mind.
Does anybody have a question for PJ at this time? Let's give the young fella a chance to answer one. On the right side toward the back. Name and media outlet, please.
Derek Scott, Gamecock Radio Network. PJ, when you were here in December, obviously the excitement of playing in the Garden was something you could get through and experience. Is that valuable to have that out of your system now when you come back here and play in this level on the Sweet 16?
Yeah. I definitely think it's good for us, that we have played in this arena before. Here y'all go. But, I think I think it works in our favor. But, you know, first game, second game, third game, I feel like, you know, you're always going to be kind of nervous playing here just due to the history of basketball in this arena. But I think it's definitely good for us that, you know, that we had that opportunity earlier in the year to play here.
We have time for a few more questions for the student athletes from South Carolina. Is there one in the back? Andrew, can you take that? We're going to use the left-hand microphone on the right side. Herbert.
How you doing? Herbert Delancey, BSTM. How great is it to know that not only the women's program is doing well, but you all, the men's program for the University of South Carolina, is holding up your end of the bargain? How great is that for both of the teams to be producing well at this time of the year?
Let's have Dwayne answer that one, and PJ.
I think it's a really cool experience, personally, especially because around this time every year, the past few years, we've been at home watching the girls play, cheering them on. So the fact that we're still able to play, it's good for our student body, it's good for our school and the whole institution. And it's very cool that we can cheer each other on and support each other, and hopefully both do something that this school hasn't done before.
PJ, the same question.
I just agree with Dwayne. It's a blessing, you know, to have both programs in the Sweet 16 playing this late in the year. It's good. It's just great for our program overall. Like Dwayne said, you know, we've been cheering them on, you know, this time of the year for the past couple of years. And, you know, making it, we don't want to take any recognition away from them. You know, we're excited to be here. We're excited that they're in the position they're in.
We have time for one, maybe two more questions. There's one on the right side of the aisle.
Speaking of the women, just curious if any of you have experienced them talking smack to you about, hey guys, let's get going. You know, let's get to the NCAA tournament. Any kind of a relationship in that respect?
Sindarius, you want to take that one first?
No, we just support each other. You know, when they're watching, when they're playing, you know, we're tuned in and sending them Snapchats on during the game on what they done messed up on and stuff like that. And you know, it's been times where when we're playing the game and you know they sending like live text messages on the game like they almost broadcasting the game. You know, just everything. We just support each other.
Dwayne, you want that one also?
Same thing he said.
PJ, anything to add?
No, not really.
All right, we have time for one more question for the student athletes from South Carolina, if there is one. All right, no more questions. We'd like to thank Sindarius, Dwayne, and PJ for joining us. Wish them the best of luck tomorrow here in the Sweet 16 at Madison Square Garden. Great job, guys. Congrats. Good luck tomorrow. See, the seniors always get the tough ones. Ladies and gentlemen, the South Carolina locker room is most likely now closed. We'll be joined in just a moment by the head coach of Baylor, Scott Drew. After Coach Drew joins us for 15 minutes, we'll have student athletes Ishmael Wainwright, Manu LeConte, and Jonathan Motley. They'll be here for 15 minutes after Coach Drew. During the 30-minute time period that representatives from Baylor are here in the main interview room, their locker room will be open. The student athletes will be available, and Coach will be available after he finishes with us here as well. Really? That sounds good. That sounds exciting here in the main interview room. We're going to have the student athletes from Baylor join us first. That, again, is Ishmael Wainwright, Manu LeConte, and Jonathan Motley. They're going to join us here. The student athletes not in the interview room will be available in the locker room for a total of 30 minutes. Their locker room is open today from 1:30 to 2 p.m. After 15 minutes with the Baylor student athletes, we'll have the head coach, Scott Drew. He'll join us here for 15 minutes as well. That is as scheduled. I just did not read it correctly. Appreciate it. Okay. Just a reminder, when joining us here in the main interview room, please be sure to silence your cell phone. Please refrain from any flash photography. No video recording devices are allowed here in the main interview room. That includes video on handheld cameras, mini cameras, cell phones, mobile phones, and social media. You can do social media anywhere else, just not here in the main interview room. If anybody needs the satellite information, Ron from Hammond Communications has it. I also have it up here on the dais. We'll be joined by the student athletes from the Baylor Bears in just a moment, followed by Coach Drew. Thank you. So nice. I appreciate that. I like that, keeping it fresh. The Baylor Bears have arrived. Congrats, fellas.
Thank you. How you doing?
Welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the media, the Baylor Bears locker room is now open. The student athletes that are not joining us are available there at this time, but we're joined right now by Ishmael Wainwright, Manu LeConte, and Jonathan Motley of the Baylor Bears. They're here with us for 15 minutes to take your questions. If you have a question for the student athletes, raise your hand. Our microphone stewards, Andrew and Catherine, are here to assist. First question for the Baylor student athletes. Raise your hand. And there's one all the way on the left side.
John Warner, Waco Tribune. Ish, how cool is it to be here?
It's real cool, especially being at just a historical place. And we all walked in and we were just in shock. Madison Square Garden. Not too many people can be here.
Continuing with questions for the Baylor Bears. If there's a question, please raise your hand. There's one on the left side right here.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider-ish. Sindarius, you faced him a couple times early in your career. How difficult a matchup is he? And not to give anything away, but would you be on him? Who would try to defend him?
The whole team would be defending him. He's a great player. I've been knowing him since high school. We had our battles. He's a close friend. He can do everything. And I know he has a great chance to go to the next level and do great things at the next level too. But yeah, they do a great job feeding him the ball in his spots that he likes the ball. Coaches broke down every made shot that he's had, and I mean, we've all watched at least about 3 hours of film on just Sandarius. And I mean, he's just a great player. It's the whole team. It's not just me. It's not just Manu. It's not just Mott, but the whole team will be trying to stop him. But I mean, everybody else on their team is great too. So it's not just him.
Continuing with questions for the Baylor student athletes. Dana, you have one? We're going to use the right side microphone on the left side of the aisle.
Dana O'Neill with ESPN. Following up on that, it's just you said you watched 3 hours of just him alone. Is that unusual for you guys to concentrate so specifically? And kind of what are you trying to get out of that you might not see in a regular?
No, that's not unusual. I mean, our coaches do a great job of breaking down film. He's not the only person that we watch, 3 hours of film of. We have film on everybody on their team, even to the last player on the bench. But I mean, he's just a great player. He's their main player on the team, the go-to guy, can do everything, and he does just about everything for them. And so, I mean,
Manu, can you add a little bit to what you may have seen from the film on South Carolina?
Like Ish said, he's a great player. He's a tough player. I mean, he's a great rebounder as well. So we're gonna have to box out even when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. But he's a great player. He's their most dangerous man on the court. So we're gonna have to do a great job defending him.
And Jonathan, what did you see on preparation for the opponent, South Carolina?
Basically, that's the same thing. They're a real tough, gritty team. And of course, he leads the show. We just got to match that toughness and physicality.
Continuing with questions for the Baylor Bears, there's one all the way in the back of the room on the right side.
Post and Courier for Ish and for Jonathan. What makes South Carolina's defense so unique, and can you draw on anything from when you faced it, several years ago?
And we're going to ask Ish to take that first, and then Jonathan second.
Well, this point of the season, we try to break it down like defense that we have seen before. Oklahoma State played a similar defense, and also West Virginia. They're the two great defensive teams, and so we kind of go out based off that. We played against them our freshman year, and so we kind of understand. Coach Martin does a great job with the guys of getting them, hype, and just if your man catches the ball, you will get subbed out. So I mean, me being a player and Manu, if we don't want to get subbed out the game, so we don't want them to catch. We don't want our offensive player to catch the ball. So I mean, do a great job of defending and just putting a lot of ball pressure on the passer.
Jonathan, that same question to you on South Carolina's defense.
They only allowed like 19 points in the paint during the tournament, so that's gonna be pretty tough since we think we're leading the tournament in paint points. So we just got to make sure we force feed into the paint and just do what we do and not get away from that. The teams that lost to them shot over 50% of their threes, so we just can't fall into that same mold.
Continuing with questions for Ish or Manu or Jonathan, will we have them on the left side up in the front?
Yeah, this is for Ish. You mentioned West Virginia. Their coach is a disciple of Coach Huggins. Do you see a lot of similarities there?
Yes, I mean, just ball pressure. I mean, their defense is amazing. They have a lot of help side defense. They know their principles, and that's what makes them even better because their offense is going to come with Sandarius and with Dwayne and their bigs. They understand the offense, but defense, that's one thing that they pride themselves about. So, I mean, we see a lot of similarity with West Virginia and South Carolina. And if we just take care of business and do what our coaches tell us to do, we should be successful.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from Baylor, if there are any. There's another one right in the middle. Is that Jerry?
Yes. Ish, you talked about playing kind of in this area and playing against Sandarius. You have a following here, and you seem to have family wherever we go. Do you have family in New York as well?
My older brother stays in New York. He stays in Brooklyn. And I have a childhood friend that stays in what part? In the Bronx, in Brooklyn, too. So, I mean, I have family up here. And I also have family in Boston. They're coming down. My family's big. Really big.
Any further questions for the student athletes from Baylor? Oh, there's one up in the front on the right side. Andrew's on his way over. This question's for Mark.
Mark Herman from Newsday. Ish, to follow up on that, can you just talk about, obviously the Sweet 16 would be great wherever you played in it, but can you just talk about just the distinction of playing it here at Madison Square Garden?
I mean, not too many people can say they played a Sweet 16 in Madison Square Garden. This is like a dream come true to me. I normally watch it on TV. Now I'm actually here, and I'm sitting where Carmelo and possibly sat. So it's just something crazy, something different. The city's amazing. So yeah.
Continuing with questions for Baylor, if there are any. There's one in the back, all the way on the right side.
Derek Scott from Gamecock Radio. Manu, you're the one new face with this group in terms of not having that experience so much from postseason play. When you went into this season, what were your thoughts on having that opportunity, seeing that they'd been pretty much a regular getting this far, and knowing what your role would be in trying to keep them on this level of success?
This is all new to me. I've been in college for 3 years. Never made it to the NCAA tournament, but when I got on this team, even last year when I was redshirting, I knew anything would be possible with this team. Great coaching staff, great teammates, and being here at Sweet 16 in New York is just a dream come true to me. So I'm very blessed.
We have time for another question or two, if there is one or two. All right, with no more questions, we'd like to thank Ishmael Wainwright, Manu LeConte, and Jonathan Motley for joining us here in the main interview room. These guys are going to head back to the Baylor locker room, which is open for another 17 or so minutes.
Have a good day.
You got it? Good luck. We'll be joined in just a moment by the Baylor Bears head coach, Scott Drew. He'll be here for 15 minutes with us here in the main interview room. This table over there. He may have family in Abu Dhabi everywhere. I mean, he's got a large family. So I got your name in one try. So at the Final Four, I get complaints because people say I only call on my friends, and it's because I learn everybody's name the first or second time through. It's actually a great compliment. I love it. Do we break something? I'm a little bit older.
You want 6
Might-
also?
Might as well.
How about 1?
Yes, one also.
You got it. Make it even.
Hey, Coach.
How we doing?
Good, congrats.
Thank you, appreciate it, sir.
Hi, Barney.
Players already got done?
They're all set. They did a
right.
great job. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we're joined right now by Baylor head coach Scott Drew. He'll be here for 15 minutes. The Baylor locker room is open with student-athlete availability for another 15 minutes as well. And Andrew, time to spring into action. Right behind you, we have a question for Nicole.
Is this working? Okay. Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. Ish was just talking about how the players have watched 3 hours of just Sindarius Thornwell alone. I mean, what is he like to prepare for, especially in this stage?
They exaggerate so much. It was only 2.5. But as far as we played against him as a freshman, and he had a lot of success against us back then. I knew he was going to be a great player for Coach Martin, and he's such a tough matchup, so versatile. I mean, you're not going to stop a guy like that. What you do is you just try to make everything as difficult as possible and hope they done have 44 points.
On the right side in the front, Coach, we have Mark.
Mark Herman from Newsday. Coach, only be fair here, because we were asking their coach about you, and he said he has a good relationship with you. What is your relationship with Frank?
Well, we became close when he was at Kansas State, and a lot of respect for him. We had so many games that went down to the wire, and either they won at the buzzer, we won at the buzzer, and just always admired how hard his teams played, how well they played. And then he was very off the court. One of our assistants, Coach Tim Maloney, and him are really good friends, so we got to know him that way. And he's one of those guys people say, is he really like that in person? So intense, and he's just a gentle giant with a big heart and a really good guy.
Next question is on the left side of the aisle. Dana?
Dana O'Neill with ESPN. Scott, I think at various points this season, people would have argued that neither of the teams sitting here would be here at this point in the season. What does it say sort of about the game and in particular this season that these four teams have made it this far?
Well, I think that's similar to college basketball, besides maybe a handful of teams. This year, there's been great parity. And each and every year, it seems like with the graduate transfers, the one-and-dones, it becomes more and more difficult to have a dominant team. And the other thing is they're 18 to 22-year-olds, which means some days they're really good and some days they're not as good. So anyone that has a teenager probably can relate with that. And as far as the NCAA tournament, it's just like the season. It doesn't matter what you're seeded, what you're ranked. It really matters who plays the best in that 40 minutes, and that team advances. And it's not best of 4 or 7, so the best team doesn't always win.
I'm going to stay on the left side toward the front. Jerry?
Bear Insider. Scott, you talked about defending Sindarius. Is it just as important not to let somebody else have a career night?
Well, first of all, they're here because more than just him. I mean, they have a very good team, and they have multiple weapons and people that can step forward, and their defense is their biggest weapon. They get a lot of transition baskets because of it, and whatever they don't get there, they get on the offensive glass. So very similar to our team. He's a big piece to their puzzle. Jonathan Motley's a big piece to our puzzle, but both of us have very good teams.
On the right side in the back.
Hi, Scott. David Caravello, Charleston Post and Courier. Is there an adjustment period to facing the South Carolina defense when you don't see it regularly? And can you draw on playing West Virginia or even that game 3 years ago to get you guys ready for this?
Well, I think playing Oklahoma State with Brad Underwood, playing Ole Miss with Andy Kennedy, playing Coach Huggins, those are all similar from the same tree, Coach Huggins' tree. Now, everyone does something a little different, and Taylor makes it to their team and personnel, but the toughness, the rebounding, and the defensive intensity, that's pretty consistent. None of them let you run offense. And hopefully those experiences help us. Doesn't make it a guaranteed that we'll be successful against it, because first time we played West Virginia, I think we tried to set an NCAA record with turnovers. We came up just short. So it's a tough team to prepare for. And what really makes it tough is you think, well, you played on Sunday, but really Monday's a rest day. Tuesday you prep, and Wednesday you do, and you don't do much on Thursday, so you don't have a long time to prep and get ready for them.
On the left side of the aisle, right in the middle.
Gene Fournette from the Times-Union in Jacksonville. Scott, I know that your schools had to deal with a lot of negative national attention for stuff that obviously isn't having any doing with your own program, but how do you handle it if on the recruiting trail the subject does come up? And I'm sure that you want to defend your school as well as anybody else. And so I'm just wondering how you handle that when those situations do come up.
Well, first and foremost, people that know more about Baylor, they don't have to ask the question. I've seen in 2 publications we have an all-time high in applications this year. So people that know about Baylor know that we have good people. It's a good institution, and we're trying to make it better, which is something that I'm proud of with the changes and implementations and things we put into place. The goal is to be the safest college campus in the country, and that's an admirable goal. As far as people that don't know as much about Baylor, then if they ask, it's great because it allows us to explain our personal experiences with it. And I mean, one day I want my kids to go to Baylor, so I want it to be a great school.
On the left side, all the way up front.
John Warner, Waco Tribune. Scott, do you have to talk to your team about not getting too blown away by the moment of playing at the Garden, or how do you handle that?
Well, the good thing is probably every team has to deal with that in a little bit, but The second part would be we've had great leadership all year from Ish Wainwright and the upperclassmen. We have a lot of guys that have gone to the NCAA tournament, played in great venues, played against outstanding teams. So hopefully they're not in awe, but they understand the importance of what we have to do, and that's control what we can control.
We're going to go all the way in the back to the left of the aisle, but we're going to use the right side microphone.
David Smoke, ESPN Central Texas. After what is your fourth consecutive NCAA trip, fourth Sweet 16 in 8 years, did you need this kind of run to help validate what your program is doing after the last couple of years?
Well, I think you're probably only as good as your last game, no matter what. We started out when you win Elite Eight, Sweet 16, NIT championship, and everybody becomes a little spoiled. You just assume you're going to advance and do well in postseason. Then you lose in the first round twice, and now all of a sudden people are like, well, what's the matter? And with us, I think it's made us just appreciate more each and every win in the NCAA tournament because it isn't a given. In the first two Elite Eights, we lost to the national champions, and we thought, you know what, we win this game, maybe we win this thing. So it shows you we've been close, but I think it's made us appreciate it more, being the fourth time in 8 years.
Continuing with questions for Coach Drew. If there are any, please raise your hand. We'll send the microphone in your direction. There's one more on the left side in the middle. Jerry.
Coach, Frank Martin talked about the grind in the SEC. Bryce is over there now. Does he kind of relay the same thing to you, that we know what it's like in the Big 12, but the SEC is that same kind of grind, I guess?
With parity in basketball, I think every college coach would tell you that their conference is a grind, and rightfully so. So we all relate, we all understand, because first of all, with all the information, with all the film and everything that you can get on opponents, it's hard to score because everyone knows exactly the tendencies and what people do and what plays they're running. So that becomes bogged down. And then the personal experience when you play everybody. Our league and leagues where you play everyone twice, it even makes it tougher because every year you're playing them twice, maybe 3 times. By the time you're a senior, you've guarded the same guy maybe 9, 10, 11, 12 times. So coach tells you he likes to go right, but you know what? You realized I've closed out and I got to stop his right hand. And so there's just that personal experience you get when you play people multiple times each and every year.
On the right side toward the back.
Coach Derek Scott with Gamecock Radio. I know you all tend to do deep dives when it comes to trying to get scouting ready for possible opponents in the NCAA tournament. You've got a lot of different options out there. How valuable was it for you to have film on South Carolina from previous matchups in different years? And moreover, speaking of your brother, was there a reach out to the Vanderbilt staff for opinions and ideas and so forth?
Well, in the coaching fraternity, everyone's going to get opinions from everybody. As far as the personal experience, because each coach's style is a little different, definitely it helps to look at some of those past tapes. At the same time, every year we tweak, every coach does what offense and what things they do defensively based on their personnel. The only thing I liked when you watch old film is it reminds you of your past players, and it brings a smile to your face. I mean, we had some great games with them, and there were some great players in those games. I think I had more hair back in that day.
On the right side in the front, Mark.
Just to follow up on those questions about Bryce, what's the dynamic like with you and Bryce, and how often do you see each other? How much do you compare notes? How competitive are you between the two of you?
Well, the good thing is there's no one I'd rather see win than my brother, and hopefully he feels the same way about me. My dad was the 7th all-time winningest active coach before he retired. So I have 2 assistants. My brother has 2 assistants, however you want to look at it. It's really nice that you can talk to them after a game and they can share their opinion, and they can do it in a way that you'll receive it. And at the same time, it's always good to get opinions from people and know what they're talking about, but also have your best interests in heart. So they're not going to give you patented answers, but they'll give you critical answers if need be, and give you a different perspective. The other thing is, us coaches are with our teams every day. So sometimes players, you see them practice for several months and they don't do as well, and then in a game they do better, and you're like, my dad's like, why aren't you playing them more? You know, and my point is, it's some people play better in games. Some people, if their attitude's not as good, you tend to hold it against them. I mean, that's human nature if they miss class or do things like this. So it's good to have a fresh set of eyes. I mean, the obvious we all can tell, but a lot of times there's different perspective. Why not go small ball? Why not play a bigger lineup that they have the wisdom and knowledge that they can give it in a way that I can understand it.
On the left side of the room, toward the back.
Rob Doster, NBC Sports. Obviously, when you took the job, Baylor was not the program that it is right now, and I was just hoping you could take me through the decision-making process of when you decided to take the job.
Well, at the time I was at Valparaiso University, which was a small private Christian school and actually largest Lutheran school in the nation. And before my dad got there, never had a winning record in Division I, and we were able to go to win 6 or 7 conference championships, or 6 out of 7 conference championships, go to the Sweet 16 and do a lot of positive things. And I saw a lot of similarities with Baylor from the standpoint, largest Baptist school, great academic school. The weather was nicer. But also ultimately it comes down to, I felt led to come here through prayer, and thought it was a great opportunity. And no job is easy. But over time, we've been blessed to get a lot of good players and have great coaches that have helped build it.
On the left side in the center.
Gene Fernand from the Times Union Jacksonville. You weren't too specific earlier when on the question about how much help your brother might be giving you on South Carolina, and if you can be specific, will you also lean on him if by chance you get a matchup with Florida?
Definitely, I'll get his thoughts and opinions, but ultimately, our teams are different. So things that they might have done, we don't do because they're a different team than us, and they have different strengths. So offenses are completely different. So you can get some general thoughts and ideas, but it's hard to get specifics. Does that make sense?
Is there a final question for Coach Drew?
You're Jacksonville, Florida? You keep Coach Driscoll under wraps down there? Is there any coffee left down there with Dunkin' Donuts? He's a great man.
We have a final question on the left side, Jerry.
Scott, Manu was new to the tournament. He hadn't had a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. What did last weekend do for him? And maybe with a little more rest, is he even better, closer to 100%?
Yesterday in practice, I told David that's the best I've seen him move in a long time, and he gained confidence, he gained some experience, and hopefully he's able to play better this weekend than he did last. And not that he played bad last weekend, but still he's getting back in the flow and the rhythm of things, and it's tough when it's the biggest part of your season to be thrown in that mix. So hopefully he continues to just get better and better, and this has been the first time for several days he hadn't re-aggravated it, which is great too.
Any further questions? Is there one final question for Coach Drew? All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thank Coach Drew for joining us here today. Wish him best of luck tomorrow in the Sweet 16.
If anyone could turn the heat up outside, that's the only thing we'll ask for, all right?
Please, we were hoping you would help us out and bring us some weather. Thanks, Coach. Don't know yet. The Baylor locker room is likely closed at this time. The Wisconsin locker room is likely just about opening. We'll be joined by head coach Greg Gard for 15 minutes, followed by student-athletes from Wisconsin. Still waiting on those individual student-athletes' names, but we'll let you know as soon as we do. The student-athletes who do not join us here in the main interview room in 15 minutes will be available in the Wisconsin locker room. I'm almost ready. Okay. Somebody push Patrick down the stairs, please. Who are you with? We'll be joined in 15 minutes by student athletes from Wisconsin, Bronson Koenig, Nigel Hayes, and Ethan Happ. Their teammates and themselves right now, they're in the Wisconsin locker room, available for the next 30 minutes. Right now, ladies and gentlemen of the media here at Madison Square Garden, in the main interview room, we're joined by the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers, Greg Gard. We'll ask Coach to begin with an opening statement. Then he'll take questions for 15 minutes.
All right, thank you. Obviously, coming off last weekend, exciting time for us and our players and our program in terms of how we performed last week. So extremely excited to be here in New York. It's actually our third time, I think, in the last 15, 16 months. So looking forward to tomorrow. Obviously, we're playing a really good Florida team. As any time you're still playing at this time of year, you've got an exceptional team, and Mike's done a great job there. So I'm just happy for our guys, our 4 seniors that have been able to grow and mature throughout their year and still be playing at this time of year. So hopefully we got a lot more quality basketball left in us. With that, I'll take any questions you got.
Thank you, Coach. And we're going to start all the way on the right side, all the way in the front.
Coach Mark Narducci, the Philadelphia Inquirer. I know any win at this time of year is big, but could you talk about beating the defending national champs and if that had any special meaning to you guys?
Well, obviously, the program that Jay's built there and what they've done, obviously last year specifically is terrific, and they had a great year. I mean, we never talked about in preparation for Villanova about playing the defending national champions. We just talked about playing a really good team, and that we were going to have to play really well in order to have a chance in that game. So. We don't get caught up too much. I don't make any big deal of the seeds when we got, put it as an 8. It really didn't matter. And knowing after having been a 1, having been a 2, all the way down to a 12 in our time at Wisconsin, that you just have to go play the game and play well for that 40 minutes. And really what has happened in the past, whether for the opponent or for yourself, is irrelevant to that 40 minutes that you're going to play. So we played really well, made some plays down the stretch, and we're able to, beat obviously a very, very good team.
Staying on the right side in the front, Adam.
Hey, Coach Adam Zagoria. I think 13 of the 16 coaches left have never won the tournament. Only 3 of them have. What does that say about the opportunity for those coaches to win? And a lot of great coaches left. Yourself, Mark Few, Scott Drew, Huggins. The opportunity for those coaches and just how tough it is to win the tournament.
Well, I think that's your last statement there, sentence, is the most important one. It's really hard. Obviously I'm at the very beginning. Those other guys you mentioned have been doing this a long time, and there's been a lot of very good coaches that haven't won the whole thing because you have to have a lot of things go your way. You have to be playing exceptionally well. You have to get some breaks along the way. You have to stay healthy. You can go on and on and on about all the obstacles you have to overcome. So I don't, and you have very good teams and very good coaches that have terrific years that don't get to a Final Four in that point where you can play for a national championship. So, it's very hard to do. I know that, having been a part of 2 Final Four teams and also been a part of national championship teams at the Division III level in Platteville, you can have very good teams that something goes wrong along the way and you don't get there.
On the left side of the aisle, Gene.
Gene Fournette from the Times-Union in Jacksonville. Coach, could you address the issue? You followed a Wisconsin legend in Bo Ryan, and certainly Mike White has done the same at Florida. Could you talk about how maybe it might be a little bit easier in any way, having spent 23 years on a bench with Bo Ryan, 15 at Wisconsin, before you took the job as opposed to coming from somewhere else? And as a follow-up, could you talk about the advantage, if you feel it is one, having 69 combined games amongst your starters in the NCAA versus Florida, who has only 1 starter with any NCAA experience coming into this year?
Well, I think to answer your second part first, you get to this point in time in the season and really you can throw a lot of that out because they've been in big games. We've been in big games. They've obviously been in 2 tournament games to get to this point. So I think sometimes there's more made of that experience than necessarily applies, because you get, now we're to our 35th, 36th, whatever game of the year, 37th. They've been in a lot of those environments, as has Florida. So in regards to our two positions with Mike, I think the one thing that I've tried to do is just be myself and not try to compare and contrast of what Coach Ryan did or how he did it. Obviously, I had great tutelage and a great mentor for a long time, almost a quarter century. So I learned a lot along the way. But one thing I've also learned is that you have to be comfortable in your own skin, and I think Mike has probably that would apply to Mike too. For as terrific a job as Billy did there, Mike had to come in and be his own person. And obviously we're a little different track in terms of how we got to where we are. But I think the one thing you keep in mind, you take all the exceptional teaching and learning that you've gotten from whatever mentor you have, and obviously Bo has been mine primarily, and you apply that, but at the same time you have to not forget who you are. And even though terminology may be the same, we've tweaked some things, a lot of it has remained the same. You still have to do what you feel comfortable with and what you feel is best for you and your team. So I give Mike a lot of credit, because that's it's not an easy position to walk into in either case. But I think Mike, from what I've noticed from afar, is that he stayed pretty true to himself and not worried about whose shoes he had to fill. He was just trying to do the best thing for his team and his players and his university, and doing things that he's comfortable with, and we've tried to do the same thing.
In the center on the right side of the aisle.
Pat Dooley, Gainesville's son. Coach, is there anything you can, I mean, you said it's a kind of a played out storyline, but that's what we do. We kind of play it out. Is there anything that you can take from the fact, I think, that Nigel and Bronson are playing their 14th NCAA game?
Well, it means they've had a lot of success at Wisconsin. They played with a lot of really good teammates. They had great role models in front of them. Obviously, the two Final Four teams that they came in and were a part of as a freshman and sophomore, they kind of walked into college basketball utopia. They went through probably an abnormal track in terms of a college student athlete, of walking into two teams or back-to-back years with having that much success. So they saw the pinnacle of it. And they've also learned, I think, in the last 2 years how to grind and strain and work through adversity, maybe when things weren't going quite as smoothly as those 2 years, specifically the 2015 year. So they've seen both of it, both sides of it. Usually it works in the other way, in terms of you have to grind and strain, and then you see the pinnacle as you close out your career. But they were, obviously, like I mentioned, with two very good classes ahead of them, that did things the right way and worked their way through our program, and being around a National Player of the Year. I think they saw the dedication of Frank Kaminsky and the commitment that he made to make himself into the player that he was. So there's benefits of that, but you also, watching it is one thing, and seeing your teammate go through it is one thing. Having to have your hands on the wheel yourself as a leading or a leader in the locker room is a little different, and those two guys specifically have had to learn a different role over the last 2 years of that leadership quality.
We're going to use the right side microphone, left of the aisle, with Josh.
Josh Newman, Asbury Park Press. Just to follow up that question, when it comes to Nigel and Bronson, being that this is their last go-around and they've been deep in the tournament a few times now, do you find that they're coming into this one with a different urgency, being it's the last go-around?
Well, I think anytime seniors see the hands of time ticking a little bit, that they have a sense of urgency, whether you go deep into the tournament or not. I mean, I think you get that sense as you come down and close out the regular season, that it's the last home game, the last road trip, senior day, all those type of things that come into play as a senior walks that walk. I think their sense of urgency at this time of year always gets heightened. Everybody does. I think you have to play really well for 40 minutes, or you pack away the uniforms, and for them, you pack them away for their career at Wisconsin. So they've kept things in perspective. I think they've approached it the right way. But I don't know if they have any more sense of urgency than any other senior class I've seen come through. They've just been a part of a lot of success and have had a huge hand in what we've done over the last 4 years. But they've taken the steps I think you see any seniors take. They know there's not a lot of time left, regardless of how far you go. I mean, maximum, they'll have 4 games left, max. anywhere from 1 to 4 is what they have left, and they've tried to take advantage of every opportunity they have here as the regular season wound down, and then as we got into postseason. They've done a good job of helping lead our younger guys.
Left side in the center, Larry.
Larry Fleischer, Associated Press. You would talk about your seniors. This is the 6th time in 7 years that Wisconsin's in the Sweet 16. So what is that like, just to have that much consistency, especially when it's so tough to get to this point?
Yeah, you have to be playing some of your best basketball late, and I think having upperclassmen, as our program has predominantly been in that position where we've relied on upperclassmen leadership. Sometimes you have star power in that upperclassmen leadership. Sometimes it's just a matter of guys that have had experience. So you draw on that. You have to play well. I mean, you can't afford an 8 or 10 minute stretch of inconsistent basketball, and I think our guys have handled that the right way. We've tried to keep things in perspective too. I don't try to overstimulate this time of year in terms of what we're going into or what's at stake. They understand. They grow up around it. They watched it their whole lives. They've been in it before. I don't need to throw fuel on the fire, so to speak, of what this time of year is about. Let them enjoy it, play well, and try to continue to march on.
Left of the aisle toward the back, Coach Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun. Coach, having two post players as skilled as Hayes and Happ, how have you used it to your advantage, and how have they learned to play off one another through the course of the season?
Well, they've each learned a little different course, and not only this year but through their careers. Hayes started in the post as a freshman and sophomore, and then kind of worked out the wing as a junior and somewhat as a senior. Now is kind of doing both. Ethan's a guy that grew a little later in life in terms of he was a guard primarily in high school, specifically his freshman and sophomore year, and then hit a growth spurt. So they've each kind of developed into the player they are in a different way. They both have had to grow through things this year. Advantage, disadvantage, they just had to continue to use the experiences they've had thus far to this point. There's not a whole lot they haven't seen. They've seen double teams. They've seen, specifically basketball specific. They both have gotten better. I think that's as the year has gone on, and obviously through their careers, but specifically, I think they both have improved as the season has gone on, and both are very willing passers. I think both make their teammates around them better, and they're both very unselfish, sometimes too unselfish to a degree. But they both have understood the impact they can have and how they can improve our team and help our team just by their facilitation of the basketball and their vision. And obviously Nigel's in more of a leadership role than Ethan is, but both have done a very good job as the season's gone on. And the main thing is that they improved. They had to improve for us to get to this point, and they've taken some steps forward for us.
Coach, our final question on the right side, all the way in the back.
Ryan Young, SEC Country. Going back to Mike making it his program, I know there's not a lot of history between these teams, but you did play them when Billy was there. What's the stamp you see that Mike's put on this team and this program as you scout them this week?
Well, I mean, personnel-wise, the three guards really jump out, especially how Chiazzo's played here in the last, week, 10 days or so. Been very impressed with the backcourt. Obviously, to be able to overcome an injury, midway through the conference season with the big kid getting hurt. Egbunu, is that how you say it? Egbunu, okay. I thought he really, watching games earlier in the year, was a force inside, and what Hayes has been able to do and Leon's been able to do and other guys that have helped him off the bench. I think Gak has helped him here recently. It starts when you have good guard play, you have a chance, and his backcourt is really, really good. So that puts you in position on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. Starts with what Allen, Hill, and Chiazzo do. So very impressed with them on film. And obviously, the only teams that are left right now are ones that are really good. So I think he's done a really good job of maximizing what they're good at and what his individuals are really good at. He's put them in position, as any good coach would do, to have success and try to maximize their abilities, which they've definitely taken advantage of the position he's put them in.
We'd like to thank Coach Gard for joining us here in the main interview room. He's going to head back to the locker room, and we'll be joined in just a moment by student athletes from Wisconsin.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
The Wisconsin Badgers locker room is open for the next 15 minutes with student athletes who will not be joining us right now here in the main interview room. Making their way onto the dais right now, Bronson Koenig, Nigel Hayes, and Ethan Happ. We're looking for the first question for the student athletes from the Wisconsin Badgers, and we have one all the way up in the front, all the way to the right. We actually have two in that area, but let's go to the front row first.
Evan Flood, 24/7 Sports. Bronson, you've hit some big shots in March over the last 3 years. Was there a certain point in your career where you felt comfortable in those situations, whether here or going back to high school?
I can't really put my finger on exactly when, but I mean, just watching guys before me, Trey Jackson hit a bunch of tough shots, Jordan Taylor even. Obviously playing with Frank Kaminsky, Sam Decker, those guys. And then my confidence just kind of grew year after year to take those shots.
We're staying in that same area, but in the second row all the way to the right.
Nigel, Mark Narducci of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Could you talk about your mindset before you beat Villanova, because you were not really given much of a chance by the so-called experts? Did that put a little more chip on your shoulder when you faced them? And also, what did that win over the national champs mean? Did it mean any extra to you?
One, no, we don't have any extra chips. We just want to win the game. We just want to win. We have the same goal every other team in this tournament has, and we came out. Fortunately, we won the game before, and we had another opportunity to play and win. And as far as taking down Villanova, I mean, they weren't the national champs because the national champ hasn't won yet. They won last year. They're chasing the same thing that we were chasing. So, it's just another win. We know that we have another good team to face. There's nothing going to be but good and great teams from here on out. So we just have to come with the same focused mindset, playing smart, playing together, playing hard, leaving it all out there, and hopefully it's enough to win.
We're taking questions right now for Bronson, Nigel, and Ethan. We have a couple in the middle. Let's go first to Mike right in the center. It's third row. There you go.
Mike Wise, ESPN's The Undefeated. Nigel, for you and Bronson, does your coach ever give you guys grief about being so socially active? And how does he deal with that? And also, from your point of view, how important is it to both of you that you use the game as a tool for something more than just your own means?
And we're actually going to ask Bronson to take that first, and then Nigel.
To answer your first question, Coach Gart has always supported Nigel and I both in our stances and our activism and everything like that. And he tells us if he needs us for him to do anything for us, then he's there for us. So he's been great through it all. And I mean, I don't know. I kind of realize that I have a voice, especially in the Native American community, and my mother has always kind of pushed me to, be that role model and to use my voice. So, I'm just doing what I think is right.
And Nigel, that same question to you, please.
Yeah, everything is correct he said about Coach Gard, and as far as what made us want to do is just knowing that you have an impact. You have a platform, you have a stage, you have a voice that are carry. You have the ability to change a lot of lives, bring change to a lot of situations in life based on your voice, based on the things you say and do, and just knowing that basketball is is a small part of our lives, and we can use it as a vehicle to go through our life and make it a better place.
In the center, just to the right of the aisle.
Yeah, Nigel and Bronson, when you walked in the doors in Madison, could you have imagined playing in at least 14 games in the NCAA tournament? And do you think that can be an advantage for you guys? Florida's only had one guy before this year that had played in that tournament.
And we'll ask Nigel to take this first, and then Bronson.
No, to be honest, no, I didn't think that I would have, the amount of success that we've had. We knew we'd had the potential to be good, but, potential is one thing, actually doing it is another. And as far as experience goes, I think it helps in some situations, especially when the game gets tough. But at the end of the day, it's about whichever players on the team step up and make those plays. So we just want to make sure that we're the ones that make those plays, and hopefully that experience allows us to make them a little bit better.
Bronson, same question for you.
Coming in, I didn't really know what to expect. Coach Ryan told me before I came that with everybody coming in and everyone they had at that time, that we could win a national championship. And obviously making it to back-to-back Final Fours was a pretty special thing. And I didn't really, expect that. But all the experience, I think, is definitely going to help us and has helped us just not be, nervous and jittery and all that kind of stuff. I mean, every team is the first game, but, everybody's good right now and everybody's going to come ready to play. So, yeah.
On the left side of the aisle, Josh.
Josh Newman from the Asbury Park Press. For the two seniors, does this...
Ethan, we'll get you in a minute, Ethan.
Does this run feel different just because it's the last one?
We'll ask Bronson to take that first, followed by Nigel, please.
Well, every run feels different. Every season has its own, adversity, and I feel like our class and our team over the past couple of years has faced, dang near any adversity that a team could possibly face with a coaching change and, a lot of other things as well. So this one definitely feels a little different, and obviously being our last run, we want to make the most of it, and we want to just come out with the same mindset we did the first two games with, nothing to lose, and just go out there and have fun, really.
And Nigel, same question to you.
Yeah, just kind of reiterate everything you just said. Just knowing that it's the last one, that it can be over. And you just want to make sure you go out and don't leave a bad taste in your mouth. Make sure, obviously, it's what you preach all the time, but it just means a little bit more knowing that it actually will be your last. So you leave everything out there that you can, and you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward. And, if we don't speak about negative things. So we just want to come out and make sure we do what we can to try and win.
Can we take a question exclusively for Ethan at this time? Kevin has one, and I think Gene may have one too. Let's go to Kevin on the left of the aisle.
Yeah, Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun. Question for Ethan: the size and physicality inside, playing alongside Nigel. How have you used that to your advantage? This team's used it to his advantage this year, and how can you use it to your advantage on Friday night?
First off, thank you for the pity question. Secondly, I think if they pressure the wings and they give us one-on-one in the post, Nigel and I like our chances in isolation, regardless of who we're playing. So
we're going to go one row ahead to Gene on the left side.
Ethan, I don't know how much. I don't know if you've even seen one lick of film on Florida when Egbunu was in there. If you have, how much does your perception of Florida's interior change without him there?
Thank you again for asking me a question. And I think from what our coaches told us, that he was a lockdown post defender, and I haven't seen any film on him specifically, but obviously anytime you can get someone like that out of their lineup, it helps us. But it's not like they drop off much after him, so they still got some guys on the interior that play really well.
We're going to use the right side microphone on the left for Josh.
Ethan, this is 3 in a row for you. The one game that you guys played at the Garden this year against Rutgers, you had a big day. It was a pro-Wisconsin crowd. Can you take anything away from having been in this building once before this season?
Not especially, no. Hopefully we shoot better than we did that game. And our guys it's not like we're in awe of Madison Square Garden anymore after being here last year for 2 games and then playing here once already this year. So it's hopefully just like another arena to us.
On the right side toward the front, George.
George Willis, New York Post. Ethan, we'll stick with you again, but I'll ask you a question about the seniors. How have they impacted you on and off the court?
Again? All 4 of them have really helped me out on the court, obviously, especially starting from last year. My play was pretty poor, and it just kept getting better as the season went on, and that's big thanks to these guys for taking me through even when I had bad games and good games and tell me what I should and shouldn't be doing. But off the court, I think I'm closest with this group of guys, so I think that's something special as well, especially Vito, who's not up here right now. But so they've helped me a lot grow in a lot of areas on and off the court.
Mike, did you have a question? Going to the microphone on the right side, Mike.
Ethan, and for all you guys too, there's so many positions in college basketball that are interchangeable now. You got so many teams of like 18 6'6" guys, and you really have, to me, like an old school team that where positions are defined. You've got a real, big man. You've got guards who play guards and big players who play down low. Do you sense that? Do you even think about it? Do you think of yourself as an old school team, or is this just the offense that you came to run and believe in?
We'll go with Ethan, then Nigel, then Bronson on that.
I don't see it as that. Outsiders might see it an old school team, but Nigel's a very versatile player and can play on the wing and in the post. And I like to think that my ball handling ability isn't like a typical big guy. And Bronson's been in the post a couple times this year. So with the offense that we run, I like to think that we have guys that they get in a lot of different spots, a lot of different ways.
Nigel, same question?
Yeah, we kind of have interchangeable parts. We run the swing offense, so at any given time, Bronson will be in the post, Ethan will be up top with the ball. So we all have the skills necessary, and if you watch a Wisconsin practice, you will see the whole gym is doing post moves, and then the whole gym is doing dribbling drills, and the whole gym is doing shooting. So we all have the skills and capabilities. Just that, when the going gets tough, obviously we're going to go to what we're going to do. He's going to go shoot threes. We're going to go down low and impose our will. But we can do, a little bit of everything. We try to be as versatile as we can.
And Bronson, a final thought on that one?
No, not really.
Thank you very much. Further questions for the Wisconsin student athletes? We have time for one more. There's one up in the front on the right side for Kevin.
As for Nigel, in terms of the half spin move that you had against Nova at the end there, were you working on that with Jim Spinarkle out on the court before you left there? And do you remember just watching videotape of the Jordan move, or is that something that somebody brought up to you at some point?
We wanted to recreate what he actually did, so I think it occurred in the Garden against the Knicks, and we were just talking about what he did compared to what I did, and we just kind of walked through it to relive the play. And as far as that, I've seen some film. I've watched a lot of old school film. My stepfather has always told me to watch the old school guys and see what they do, because obviously nothing new is under the sun. Everything will be copied, whether it's basketball or any other aspect in life. And the play, it kind of just happened. As I've said, it obviously wasn't as glamorous as what he did, but nonetheless, it was still effective.
We'd like to thank Bronson, Nigel, and Ethan for joining us here in the main interview room. They're going to head back to the Wisconsin locker room, which will be closed, most likely by the time they get there. We want to wish you guys good luck tomorrow in the Sweet 16.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you guys again.
Good to see you as well.
I remembered somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I remembered you whatever last year.
I was here in December.
I wasn't here then.
Are you the PA guy for the Garden as well?
Sometimes. Today, this weekend's Mike Wally, so he's the guy that said, Carmelo Anthony. He's the guy. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, right now the Florida locker room is open. The student athletes that will not be joining us here in the main interview room are available in the Florida locker room. Joining us in just a moment will be Florida Gators student athletes Casey Hill, Justin Leon, and Kavarius Hayes. In 15 minutes, the head coach Mike White will join us here in the main interview room as well. The student athletes who do not join us here, once again, are available in the locker room at this time. If you're joining us here in the main interview room, these reminders: please silence your cell phone. Please refrain from any flash photography. No video recording devices, including handheld cameras, mini cameras, camera phones, or video recording on your phone are permitted. We do have satellite coordinates if you need that. please ask Ron in the back, or you can come up and ask me up here on the dais. Right now, the Florida locker room is open for the student athletes that are not here, but those joining us right now, Casey Hill, Justin Leon, and Kavarius Hayes. Questions for the Florida student athletes, please raise your hand. Let's start right here on the right of the aisle for Pat.
Yeah, can you guys just talk about, all three of you, just about being greedy at this point? You know, you win one, and you have another, and then now you get here, and just being greedy to keep it going.
And we're going to ask Casey to begin with that question, then Justin, then Kavarius. Casey.
Just got to stick to playing our defense, and that's about it. I think that takes care of everything else.
Justin, same question.
Pretty much the same thing Casey said. You know, just stick to the game plan, and don't let any noise creep in, and I think everything will take care of itself.
And Kavarius.
About going out there and playing hard. You know, how bad do you really want it?
All right, let's go to the left of the aisle. We'll start with Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun. Question for Kavarius. What have you seen in Ethan Happ on film over the last couple of days, and what's going to be the challenge of dealing with him in the post if there are some one-on-one situations?
Basically, keeping him off the block as much as possible, trying to limit his close touches to the basket, and whenever I can, make him score over instead of giving an angle.
Next question's for Gene.
In a similar vein, both for Kavarius and for Justin, Wisconsin is obviously a team that's exposed a lot of others who have not defended the interior as well. How much more of a challenge is it without Egbunu there, and do you feel like you've got enough games under your belt now to have adjusted to that?
And we'll have Justin take that first, and then Kavarius.
I think it's a pretty big challenge, especially with those two high-level players. But without Egbunu, I think we've done our fair share of the job, because we got here without him. So I feel like I think we showed that we can play interior defense without him. I mean, he would be a great help, but I think we can do it without him too.
Kavarius.
Yeah, pretty much what Justin said. Having John here would be a huge help. He's definitely the more physical counterpart to our defense. But we can't sell ourselves short. Even without having him, we've played pretty good interior defense so far, and I feel like we can still come out on top tomorrow.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes, we have one on the left side toward the back.
Casey, a lot of the talk will be about guarding the inside, guarding the interior with Hayes and Happ, but personally for you, how important is it to get aggressive defensively and shutting down an elite scorer like Bronson Koenig?
And your name and media outlet, and then we'll get to Casey's
Jake Winderman, ESPN Gainesville.
Thank you. Casey.
Like you said, he's a great offensive player. I don't know about shutting him down, but I definitely can limit some of his touches and try to slow him down a little bit.
Let's go all the way to the left side.
Jeff Eisenman, thepostgame.com. We're 10 years out from the last Florida championship. Do you guys remember watching those two Florida championship teams, and have any of those guys reached out to you this week?
And we'll ask Casey to take that, Justin, and then Kavarius.
I watched it a little bit. I don't remember watching it exactly when it happened, but I've seen the old videos and stuff. And Maurice Spates, I talked to him a little bit, and he just said to just stay in the moment and enjoy this time.
Justin.
Kind of pitching off, what Casey just said. I don't really remember watching at the exact time, but now I've seen videos about what's happened when they were winning. So, I mean, it's just the players that haven't reached out to me. I mean, not really. I don't really know them guys like that. So,
Kavarius.
Same here. Haven't really. It's too young to really understand what's going on. Watching it exactly. But I have seen old videos, it's like trying to replicate what they did there to achieve greatness. It's kind of what we have to do here today. And I haven't really reached out to many of the players, but I'm sure they still follow and have their prayers with us.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from Florida. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Send a microphone in your direction. Let's go back to Pat on the right side.
Yeah, Kavarius, can you just talk about the experience factor they have? This will be their 14th NCAA tournament game. You guys have gotten a couple in. Casey, of course, had his. But Just do you think that's any disadvantage for you?
I wouldn't say more of a disadvantage. It's just, they have more experience than we do as far as NCAA play. But I feel like, we're all competitive. We're still going to come out here and play as hard.
Next question for the Florida Gators student athletes, if there are any. All right, we have one on the right side. Name and media outlet, please.
Drew Casey from WFUV Radio here in New York. Guys, it's the Sweet 16, but it's in New York and at Madison Square Garden. Does that add anything as opposed to if you were in one of these other regions?
And we'll start with Casey, please.
I definitely think it adds something. Everybody who's playing here probably grew up playing in here one day, so it's definitely fun playing in here, and it's going to be exciting.
And Justin?
Yeah, I think it kind of adds a little bit because, like Casey said, a lot of people grow up thinking, wanting to play here, and then for us to play here and then think about all the other, great past players that's been here as well. So I think it's pretty good.
Kavarius?
Yeah, it kind of does that special feeling, being here after so many greats have passed through. It's, now we can finally be here to try to add our name to that list.
Another question on the left side toward the center.
Jake Winterman, ESPN Gainesville. Justin, last game you sort of got back into your ways of you knocked down 3 of your 6 3-pointers. Towards the end of the season, you're one of the top 3-point shooters in the SEC. Were you attacking Virginia a little bit differently, and is that something you'll try and do again in facing Wisconsin?
I think I was just playing a little bit more freely, just had some confidence because, my teammates, that's kind of the things that they kind of rely on me to do. So they were, encouraging me to, keep shooting, and, I was just listening to them, and then I just ended up falling into, I guess, knocking down 3 or 6 from 3, so.
Continuing with questions for the Florida student athletes, if anyone has one. With no more questions, we'd like to thank Casey and Justin and Kavarius for joining us here in the main interview room. They're going to head back to the Florida locker room, which is open until 3 p.m. Okay. Thanks, guys. Good luck tomorrow. We'll be joined in just a few moments by the Florida head coach, Mike White. The locker room is open with all the student athletes again until 3 p.m. That's another 22 minutes. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. What's up, guys?
We're joined right now by Florida head coach Mike White. We'll ask Coach White to give us a couple opening thoughts, then we'll begin with questions.
Oh, opening thoughts. Great to be here. We just fought traffic for about 45 minutes getting back here from St. Francis. It was kind of them to lend us out the facility. Had a good practice. Great to be back in the city, playing in this arena, and with an opportunity against a tremendous basketball program in Wisconsin.
Coach, we have the first question for you already in the front on the right side. Adam.
Hey, Coach Adam Zagoria, how you doing?
Great, how are you?
I think 13 of the 16 coaches in the tournament have never won it. Only Cal, Self, and Roy have won it. What does that say about how many great coaches are in this tournament that have not won it, and the opportunity for guys like yourself, Coach Huggins, Frank Martin, Mark Few, Scott Drew, to possibly break through and win a first championship?
I think it's neat. You just mentioned a bunch of really, really good coaches outside of the guys that have won it. Of course, the guys that won it, it goes unsaid that how talented those guys are and successful those guys have been. So I'm happy for a handful of guys that get these opportunities. These opportunities are unique and they're exciting, just as these opportunities are for all of our guys, all of our players in particular, at all of our different programs. So it's what it's all about. It's March Madness. It's the Sweet 16. It's really cool. And who knows? I think it's wide open. And I think all of us probably right now are not worried about the end result. We all have our hands full. I know the Gators do with Wisconsin, of course.
Next question is to the left of the aisle, Nicole.
Hey, Mike. Nicole
Hey, Nicole.
Auerbach,
Yep.
USA Today. How do you balance that? You're talking about the excitement of reaching a Sweet 16, but obviously there's more basketball ahead. How do you personally balance that? And then with the team, especially when you come back after and you have a couple days after you know, the rush of last weekend?
This is our first time through it, Nicole, so I don't claim to have all the right answers. My personal answer, our answer as a staff, has just been the next one. It's not about the basketball down the road. It's not about the bracket and who we may play and where we may be next weekend. It hasn't been from the start of the tournament with us. In fact, going back to the SEC tournament where we didn't have any success, the whole thing was 100% on Vanderbilt. Just didn't play quite well enough, of course. Didn't make the plays down the stretch. And this tournament was simply about East Tennessee State. That's all it was, period. It was a one-game deal for us. And then all attention was turned to Virginia, and it's been Wisconsin all week, and that is it. We're hopeful that we can play well enough to be competitive and to have a chance at the end, and we'll take it from there. That's it.
Question down in front on the left side.
Yeah, Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel. Talked to Danny yesterday. He talked about how proud he is of you. I'm just wondering, he's going to be here next week. UCF's in the NIT Final Four at the Garden. Can you just talk about you guys growing up basketball and how satisfying this week may have been for you guys?
Yeah, it was really cool, Mike. It's a great. I'm glad you brought up Danny. And in fact, Pops is out here as well. My father. I look forward to seeing. He stays so busy. I don't get a chance to see him enough. Just like Danny, we're an hour and a half away. Him being, for those of you that don't know, he's the athletic director of Central Florida, and we just don't get to see each other very often. He hired. I thought he made a great hire in Johnny Dawkins, who's a great coach and a great man. And it was a great run for the Knights. Very rewarding, I know, for Danny. I know he's going to be really excited to come up here and have these opportunities. But growing up in an athletic family, not only Danny and I, but with my other brother Brian, probably led by my mother. My father would admit that. We were basketball junkies, and I watched these tournaments, on the couch with mom and brothers, from 5 years old to 8 years old to high school. I remember so many of them. I remember so many of the great players that had success, and so many of the storylines, and following the Dukes of the world, and for us to be just a small part of it is really neat, because you forget, but it's reality. I'm a coach in this thing. He's an AD in this thing, and we're both still college basketball fans.
On the left side of the aisle there, Gene.
Gene Fournette from the Times Union. As an aside, Danny blames you for the neighbors complaining about the bouncing ball in the driveway at 2 o'clock in the morning. Coach Gard mentioned in his press conference he was kind of playing down the experience advantage of his team in this tournament. I'm just wondering, how do you feel about that? Is that a bigger concern, or is it more about how you're going to guard them in the interior?
Yeah, he'd be better served answering that question, because I only look at it one way, and that's we're looking at it as a first-time thing, of course. I don't know how much of a factor it is. I got to think it's a little bit of a factor. I got to think that his guys, having made runs like this, feel confident Not saying that my guys feel unconfident, but for us, we're not sitting here complaining that we don't have a bunch of experience at all. That is our biggest issue, Gene. That's our biggest concern is how we defend their interior. They have two borderline All-American bigs that are both tough, physical, skilled, can score on the interior, can draw fouls on the interior, and they both can pass it. And then you've got 7 or 8 guys that can really shoot it, led by Koenig, who's one of the best shooters in all of college basketball. So that's a pretty unique balance there. They present some issues in trying to defend them.
On the right side of the aisle, let's go to Pat.
Yeah, Pat Dooley, Gainesville Sun. Mike, obviously a lot of people didn't have you going this far after the Bunu injury, after the way things finished up. Is it kind of your message to be greedy and keep it going through your team?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just about Wisconsin. This is a group that enjoys playing with one another. It's a group that I've enjoyed coaching all year. I told you guys that even after a couple losses, these guys. Conversely, after a couple wins, we weren't very happy. Obviously, you remember that. But this is it's a good group. They play well with one another. They like each other. They play hard. They've sold out to defending at the highest possible level, and we feel like when we continue to do that and we're focused and locked in, and we complement that with some made shots, we can compete with anybody in the country. So we're here. There's a game to be played, and why not see if we can keep this thing going as long as we can.
We have one on the right side of the aisle.
Hey, Tom Jones from the Tampa Bay Times. Mike, I know you've talked about this before, but how much pressure did you feel taking over for Billy Donovan with the success that he had, and how does getting to the Sweet 16 validate at all the job that you're doing right now?
I'll leave that, for you guys and our fans. I've never worried about it much. Again, there's pressure on every coach in the country at every level, and some coaches deal with it differently. Some coaches probably put more pressure on themselves than other coaches. I'm probably one of those guys, to be honest with you. Going back from my assistant days, and then leading into carrying over into my first year at Louisiana Tech, we weren't supposed to be very good, and not only myself but my staff and I, we're all very competitive, of course, like every coach. Pressure's talked about a lot today's day and age with the rabid fan bases, of course, and with social media and the way that you guys do a great job of covering the sport. But no one's going to put more pressure on me and my team than I am. No one. So I haven't worried about it. I haven't. Billy made this a tremendous job. The University of Florida is a special place, and we're going to work at it every day as long as we're here to do the best job we possibly can do.
Coach, we have 5 questions on the left side of the room. We'll see how many we can get to. Let's start in the back.
Coach Jake Winterman, ESPN Gainesville. Specifically with Wisconsin, they ranked 332nd in free throw percentage. Mm-hmm. Not saying you're necessarily going to go about and foul them, but is hack-a-half necessarily a bad strategy to assess a more physical defensive approach in the interior?
Yeah, we're not going that way, Jake. We're not. Big concern is foul trouble because we're already thin up front, of course, without John, and we've got to be really physical. We've got to use physicality and legality at the same time. We've got to show our hands. We've got to be very smart. Those guys just really understand how to draw fouls. You mentioned Hap. He's a really good player. I don't anticipate him going 4 or 10 from the foul line. I do anticipate, regardless of how good of a job we do on him, he's going to get to the foul line. He just understands how to do it.
On the left side.
Jeff Eisenman, thepostgame.com. 10 years since the second Florida title. You were at Ole Miss for those two teams. What do you remember about those two teams,
yeah,
and especially the way they carried themselves as defending champions the second year?
The second year, it seemed harder for them. It seemed like it was them against the world. It seemed like in the documentary that was done on those teams, a couple months ago. I know, Pat, you were in it. It was really well done. I think that that documentary spoke to the fact that it was a little bit harder the second go round, but it probably made it a little bit more rewarding too, the obstacles that they had to overcome. I remember the first year, us as a staff at Ole Miss, we talked about after a Gator loss naturally. We sat there in the locker room after the game and said, my goodness, they're really starting to put it together. Despite what their record is, despite what seed they're going to get, they can make a run. And I'm not going to lie and say that I picked them to win it, but I think we picked them to make a pretty significant run. And, boy, it was an unbelievable 2-year run for the Gators.
We have two up front on the left.
Yeah, Mike. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you took over, it seems like the image of you coming to Florida, hey, the running gun guy with the three-point shots coming to Florida. But it seems to me like maybe that was a misrepresentation. You're more of a defensive-minded, tough, hard-nosed type of coach. Right or wrong?
Tough question there. What do you think, Mike? I don't know how I was advertised. I would tell you from day one, when I was first afforded the opportunity to coach at Louisiana Tech by Wisconsin's Bruce Vandevelde, my guy, I love him to death. It was about defending and rebounding at the highest possible level, period. Now, we played at a faster pace. It was more who we were. Our roster makeup was that of the pressing nature. We had tremendous team speed at every position. And then with the success we were having with it, we started recruiting to it. I'd love to press and run and shoot a million threes. And I feel like we have shot a bunch of threes in the last couple of years, of course. Our offensive tempo has been really fast. We've slowed it down in the last month or so a little bit, and we're making somewhat better decisions. Year to year, I think it's going to change. I'm convicted, but I don't want to be stubborn about a certain style. I like to think that that we could win at Florida a few different ways, and year to year we'll evaluate it in the fall. Right now I think we're playing the best way for this particular team.
Gene on the left.
Mike, obviously Greg's followed a legendary coach in his own right there.
Yeah.
But he also had the benefit of 23 years with the previous coach, 15 at Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that path to following a legend is easier than yours or just different?
Yeah, totally different. I mean, I wouldn't go there, Gene. I'm sure Greg's had a ton of obstacles that he's had to overcome, and we go back to pressure. I'm sure Greg feels heat every day. But I'm also sure I would bet on the fact, because of the amount of success that he's had and the job that he's done, the way that his kids play, that he's more focused on Greg Gard and just more focused on his current job and not the external pressures. He's done a tremendous job. I love watching his teams play. Haven't had a lot of fun preparing for them, but ton of respect for him and their program.
On the left side of the aisle in the middle, Coach Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun. Mike, how do you balance guarding the interior and dealing with Bronson Koenig, who can get on a roll from the perimeter?
And that's the key to the whole game, Kevin. They put you in a quandary. They really do, and I don't even know what that word means. It's funny. I wish my managers were in here because they'd get a kick out of me saying that every day in noon ball, which never takes place at noon. I always say. We took an L yesterday, by the way, to the managers. They've been talking trash the whole time we've been up here in New York. But every time we score on them, we say, yeah, we got you in a quandary. You don't know how to guard us. I mean, just it's constant bad trash talking. But they really do put you in a quandary. Again, if that is the right word. I mean, if you're too extended on Wisconsin, Happ and Hayes are going to have a field day. And if you're too condensed, if you put too much emphasis on defending the interior and they get 23s off and Koenig gets 9 threes off, it's lose-lose. And so do you go into the game saying that we're just going to do whatever we've got? We're going to double the post, we're going to triple the post. Those guys aren't going to get touches. We're not going to foul them. You're going to give up a million threes, and they shoot the heck out of it. And Koenig's not the only guy. They have the guards they bring off the bench shoot it, and all of their guards shoot it. If you're too extended, those front court guys are going to foul out our whole team. So we're going to try our best, as everyone that they've played has tried to do. We're going to try to do a pretty good job doing both, and see where it leads. Who knows with in-game adjustments if we sell out to one or the other, but we've got to limit the amount of threes taken. Obviously, Koenig can't get anything easy. He's too good of a player. He's had an unbelievable run here as of late. And those other guys, Happ and Hayes, again, we've got to limit their touches. Nothing can be easy for them. They can't live at the foul line. We've got to be physical, but we've got to be smart. We've got to be sound. We've got to understand their actions. They're tremendous defensively, and we're sitting here. We just spent 5 minutes on their offense. They're just very difficult to defend as well.
Likely the final question all the way on the right side in the front.
Coach, Mark Narducci, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Could you talk about what Barry has meant to the team, the addition of him?
Canyon's been terrific for us. He's had a great year. We've considered him a starter all year, even though he's been he was the SEC Sixth Man of the Year, very well deserved. He's got great leadership qualities. He's a great kid. Throughout the year, he's become more and more vocal. I think he's become more and more comfortable because you forget he was a newcomer, and he didn't just come in and I don't think feel overly comfortable saying, "Hey, this is my show and this is what we're going to do." He eased his way in. He's very smart, very empathetic. He's become a much better defensive player throughout the year, a better rebounder, and he's a guy that he's a very dangerous offensive player as well. And I think the underappreciated value that we all are more familiar with now is his ability to draw fouls, and then of course he converts at the foul line at a really high rate. Really glad that he chose to choose Florida. I think he's also a great example of the student athlete. I mean, he's a really neat story. He's the national guy. He wins the national award. He's a nuclear engineer major. It's amazing.
We do have time for one final question if there is one. Okay, Coach, looks like we're all set.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Coach. We'd like to thank you for joining us, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a good word for the dais, Coach. That's a good job. No video in this room because Hammond has the exclusive NCAA rights. So that's even like Snapchat, or you can take photos, you just can't roll video. What's that? In the locker room, cool. Courtside, cool. Hall.